Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Post-Conference Presser for Anfield Index. It is Thursday, the 3rd of April, less than 24 hours after that game, that victory, that feeling, that points gap. And Arne Slot did his press conference early. He jumped the queue, didn't he? He normally waits till Friday when it's a Saturday or Sunday game, but it got moved up to Thursday. So he was up early at the Axe this morning. Maybe he just wanted to get it out of the way before a nice trip down to London. Who knows? But he was up early. So we'll talk about the normal things like the questions he was asked. You've probably got a guess about some of them. The answers he gave, bit of injury updates in there at the same time. We'll look back at that game last night because it'd be wrong not to, wouldn't it? And talk about the lessons learned from it. We'll look ahead to Fulham this Sunday, 2 o'clock, and talk about the threats they bring and what that could mean. And then also, we will talk about the lineup, score, and scorers. So let's get into it straight away. Arne Slot asked many a question. There's only really one place to start, even though this wasn't the exact opening topic, but this bit he was asked about. Well, yeah, sorry. Let me rephrase that. This was the first question he was asked. And I want to balance this out, but I'm struggling so much about the PGMOL. So he was asked about it, the decision, the apology that's been given as well. He said, it's good if they made a mistake, they acknowledged it. Mistakes are made in a football match by us, by me, by referees. So many pundits who aren't Liverpool fans, let's say, were clear about it. Let's move on to Sunday. He didn't pile on. There was a class to Arne Slot, as you'd expect. He was magnanimous in the whole thing. And I get why he's done it, because he's focused on the next game, the next points, the league title, all that. But let's just acknowledge for a minute how atrocious the officiating was last night. You can't even say bad. That does not do it justice. I was in the ground last night. I was at the game. And you were watching repeatedly Jota, Diaz, different players fouled time after time. And the referee just waved play on. Just not even difficult fouls to call. The most obvious fouls you can see. It really wasn't a difficult game to referee this. I can't remember his name, the referee. Feel free to help me out in the chat panel. But he looked out his depth. And it was interesting that they said he was newly promoted, over-promoted. I think that's fair to say, just completely out his depth. Shout out to Omar there in Heathrow Airport. Whether you're in Heathrow Airport, whether you're in Anfield last night, whether you're on the other side of the world, you could see how bad that referee was. But it's not the referee, rightly, who's getting the headlines and the stick. The name that sends shivers down the spine of many people. The boogeyman when you were a kid. Kaiser Soze when you were an adult. Paul Tierney, any age. How Paul Tierney can watch the replay of that Tarkowski challenge on McAllister and not come to a red card decision. There's something needs to be done about that. Even Duncan Ferguson, Big Dunk, the man with the Everton badge on his arm, was clear and said it's an easy decision. It was a clear red card, no doubt about it. It's the fact that Paul Tierney can watch multiple replays of that and come to that decision. Some would say worrying. Some could say frightening. I think, honestly, that you can't just sack all the refs and, we don't rate many of them, but I just can't see how that can be left alone, that something doesn't get done. And I don't want to hear the old, we can miss a game. Like, the fact that you can watch that and not give a red card, to me, screams gross incompetence. Now, in a workplace, we could all make mistakes. There's different levels of mistakes. And you might get a warning from your boss. You could go for levels like formal written warning. But gross misconduct would usually constitute dismissal. I'm just struggling to see like how Paul Tierney now has any credibility at all. And people will say that different. People will say that's an overreaction, but try and take your red tinted glasses off. Let's just be completely honest about that. To watch that incident and not a red card, I think that's just so worrying for an official. But Arne Slot, to his class, did not pile on whatsoever and said, let's move on to Sunday. But he also was asked before he moved on to Sunday about a couple of players in his press conference that he's right to call out. He was asked about Curtis Jones, right back. Some may have called it, many didn't, to be honest. But what did he say? He said he has a skill set that he can defend, he can attack, and that's why he can play in so many positions. And he has the mentality that if you give him a challenge, he likes to be challenged. And yesterday was a challenge for him because it wasn't his normal position. Some players hate a challenge. They like to stay in their comfort zone. But Curtis is the type of player that wants to be challenged if you challenge him. A lot of the word of challenge, but that was Arne Slot's answer in this whole discussion. And I thought Curtis was brilliant yesterday. Now, Everton didn't really have much threat down that side. Noted. They weren't really a threat. It was more the middle, wasn't it, with Beto? But he did what he had to do. But also a bit like, and I've seen the analysis, I've seen the comparisons with people. Gertrude has been mentioned, hasn't he, at Feyenoord, the way the inverted nature. Curtis did give us that ability to invert, recycle. He's never going to be a Conor Bradley flying on the outside. You never expect him to be a Trent. It changes a bit of the balance of the team, but he's an option there in the future. That does not mean I wouldn't start him in midfield. That does not mean that's not his best position. That does not mean that I'm saying over Conor Bradley or anything like this. I just think this was a pleasant surprise for a lot of people and worked well last night. And it was nice to see Arne Slot recognise that. Nothing more. And the final player that it's worth mentioning is around Diogo Jota. And he said, most for the goal, most players, when they're in a situation where they think they can score, they become mixed up in their head. When he's in these moments, he is calm. Mo is an example of this as well. This season, he started very well, but we've missed the best possible Jota for 5 or 6 months. We have missed the best possible Jota for 5 or 6 months. What's been more pronounced is we've missed the best possible Jota for the few weeks before the international break. And it looked like he was really struggling. At a time, we needed him more than ever. And in the goal mouth, just in front of the Kop, is a big pile of rust right now. Because that is what Diogo Jota has been carrying for weeks on end. And just in that little, when Diaz does the flick through the back and the little slalom style run, the drop of the shoulder and sending the keeper the wrong way and slides it right near the middle of the net. That's where that pile of rust just bursts off him. He just looked revitalised. And he can be a streaky player, Jota. We know that. And it can go up and down. And you just hope, again, long term's a different discussion, but that could be a good little run for him towards the end of the season. Whatever you and I say, whatever anybody else claims or disputes, I guarantee, like Anfield last night, if you didn't sing that song yesterday or even this morning, you are lying through your teeth. Humming in the shower I was this morning. Absolutely the key moment. So let's give Jota his flowers for that. There was a few other bits, but nothing really I would say that's worth calling out. We'd always mention, watch the press conference yourself, get your take on it. But the one bit I did want to play you was around injuries and the latest updates. Let's have a listen to this one.
A couple of other things to check, just Ali's fitness, how likely is he to be available, and how likely is Curtis Jones to continue at right back as well?
That also depends on if players are coming back, the last one, which of course Trent and Joe will not be back in the upcoming weeks. Connor We have to wait and see if he's ready to be with the squad for Sunday. And then, of course, Curtis is an option because he did well. But I think Jarell did well a few times in the position also. So let's wait and see which decision we make on Sunday. And with Ali, it's simple. It's a concussion and you have to tick all the boxes. And the moment he does, he will be in goal. The moment he doesn't, we are following the protocol.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that surprised a lot of us, didn't it, realistically, when Alisson wasn't in net, because it had been 12 days, I think it is, since that Brazil game, but they're following the protocols quite rightly. Fingers crossed he is all good for Sunday. And Keller had a decent game on the whole, you have to say. Nothing sort of stand out, nothing too eye-catching, but did the job, and it's a clean sheet for him, his 4th of the season, so you give him credit for that. It's nice that Connor Bradley's on his way back, which is great. You hope he's involved for Sunday because you like to see him get minutes. That's not to denigrate Curtis Jones at all, but just it's probably a good time to have another option at right back, isn't it? And give a bit of rotation. Hey, it might not matter when the league title's won. You may see it differently. The big thing he also said, not expecting to see Trent or Joe Gomez in the next few weeks, which does make you wonder. And I know the first player I mentioned has got a different discussion about him, but it does make you wonder, is their race run for the season a little bit? I hope that's not the case for Joe Gomez. I'd really like him to get back, get some minutes for him more than anything before the end of the season. But we will have to wait and see what happens there. But yeah, that was the big takeaways. Quite a lot of player chat from Arne Slot's press conference. But we've got to look back to this. And last night, 1-0 victory at home, clean sheet against the biggest rivals. We always talk about the lessons learned. And at this stage of the season, you can overanalyze. What I mean by that, it's just about get the points on the board, get the title won, win the game by hook or by crook. That's what it's all about, isn't it? But there's still a few things it's important to mention. Second half, Arne Slot strikes again. It's his MO, isn't it? We've seen it continuously throughout the season. Arne Slot, almost the first half seems to be almost like we're prodding them, working them out, just controlling the game, analysing certain elements. And then it's like a problem-solving element for the half-time where he goes in with his team, they make the adjustments, and they work it out the second half. That's been consistent throughout the season. Also, what I really liked about last night is when that goal goes in, brilliant. The control of the game after that for a large period. Yes, there's moments, there's a set piece, etc., but the control afterwards was really good for a set period. We were calm, we were focused, largely. And I say largely because the other thing was the greatest centre-half in our team, the greatest centre-half in the world. For me, the best centre-half of this generation. I don't know what was going on with Virgil last night. And it's a clean sheet, so there's that element. And if you're going to pick a game to not have your best by some distance, that's fine. And dear God, if you cannot give Virgil van Dijk a break now and again, who are you going to give one to? I don't really know how to describe it too much. Just some odd decision-making, I would say, from the skipper at times. That was my big takeaway from that. And Mo's an interesting one. He had to almost, with Curtis, the way he's playing, I thought, refine his role in the team. He didn't have as many shots as normal. He had the header, if you remember, when Diaz chips it to the back post that he put straight at Pickford. He'll be disappointed with that a little bit. But yeah, it almost feels like in this system, there's a bit of a compromise with Mo. It's too hard to read, and I know people are analysing this of post-Trent. What does that mean? I just think it's too early with the things that could happen to read all that and get into that. But plenty of things to take away from this one. It's Fulham on Sunday, the last 2 games in a week. It's incredible, isn't it, how long the season's gone? And There's a bit I'm liking to this. I could be proven well wrong, but there is a bit I'm really liking to this. They are mid-table. Fulham are 9th place, right in mid-table. You can see there, 45 points. Now, it looks like they win and lose all the time in their run of 5, but here's the important thing to say. They lost that FA Cup quarter-final against Crystal Palace, 3-0 at home. They lost against Arsenal 2-1, and Mooney should have buried that open goal, shouldn't he? And it should have finished 2-2, but that is done now. I just wonder, we're saying that's done now. Have Fulham done a little bit for this season? This time of the season, when things matter, you want to be playing what I call the flip-flop teams, don't you? The teams that are mid-table, that aren't scrapping for their lives, that aren't pushing for Europe. And you just look at that run. Fulham are going to finish mid-table, aren't they? They're going to finish there. They're not going to qualify for Europe. It would take an instrumental run, but they're not in the right form. They're not going to go down. I just hope a little bit that their mindset is, well, we're out of the FA Cup. We'll just play the games, and they're booking the holidays to Dubai, wherever, taking the misses, etc. So out of all the teams to pick, I'm not sure this is a bad one. That being said, they are still a very, very good side. And when you talk about their threats, you tend to look higher up the pitch. Muniz, he scored the other night. Raul Jimenez, the baby oil assassin, and Adama Traore. Interested if he plays. I do wonder that if Curtis Jones is at right back, whether they'll have Traore tasked with going at him. Not that the end product's always there, as we know, but it would be interesting to see. Threats-wise as well, I'm a big fan of Anderson, their centre-back. I think he's been absolutely crucial for them this season. They missed him when he's out at the same time. But threats, Harry Wilson, old boys sometimes love a goal against their old team, don't they? But you just look at Fulham and they are by definition mid-table. Yeah, they've won 12, but they've lost 9, they've drawn 9. So it's quite an evenish spread across the three. It's quite an evenish spread for goals for and goals against. 44 goals scored, 40 goals against. It is that ultimate, it feels, when you stack it up there, mid-table breakdown for me. Which then brings us to the final bit, doesn't it? Our lineup, the score and scorer prediction. I actually only think there's going to be one change. And I think it is that I'm expecting the holy goalie to be back and available. You would hope. It was 12 days on Wednesday. So, 15 days, isn't it? That Alisson would hopefully, and we take no gambles on a concussion protocol or anything along those lines, but he's back. Other than that, I don't think they'll change it. I think it'll be the exact same team of Robbo, Virgil, and Ibu at the back with, strange to say, but I think Curtis Jones will get another go at right back. McAllister, found his leg's still off and still on, and he seems fine. Gravenberch and Szoboszlai in the middle. Jota, it seems difficult to drop it. It wouldn't surprise me, this is Arne Slot, but I think Jota will stay in, and I think Luis Diaz and Mo Salah will be left and right. And Luis Diaz deserves a shout out for last night, by the way. I thought he was really good. He went down innocuously, didn't he? We thought his knee had gone. We were worried quite early on in the game. But after that, chased back, won the ball loads. Tried to drive O'Brien, their big fullback, to the line quite often. Not a natural fullback by any means. Made things happen. With a few better selections from Mo or others, would have had a couple more assists as well. And gets the assist, doesn't he, for the goal from Diogo. So, shout out. I just think it will be that team. But there we go. Fulham at the weekend. My honest prediction for this, I just think we're in the mood to get this title wrapped up as quickly as possible. And with that in mind, a 2-1 victory is where I am going for this one. And Mo Salah to be back on the score sheet. 2-1 victory, Liverpool to win at Craven Cottage. say 12 points clear, but the one thing you're focused on is Arsenal have also got a tough game. 12:30 at Goodison Park. There's not many games left at Goodison Park, so I'm hoping they don't roll over. But even if it is 12 points clear or whatever, Liverpool's march towards the title does not stop. Everything is on course for where it should be. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your weekend. Hopefully the sun shines out like it is for me wherever you are. I'll be planning a barbecue. I'll be planning on watching the Reds beat Fulham at Craven Cottage. I'll be planning on seeing the Reds with one big giant paw on that title, grasping even tighter. And on Thursday, the 3rd of April, that was another post-conference presser for Anfield Index.